today I am extremely pleased that Senator John Eichelberger has joined us. He is our GOP Pennsylvania State Chair and is doing a great job on pushing the term limits issue in Pennsylvania. And I'm so glad he's joined us today. Good morning.
Thanks, Holly. Thanks to you. Thank you. Good to be here.
So, why is term limits so important to you? You're a former state senator. Usually elected officials don't want to talk about term limits. So why is it so important to you?
Well, I mean, I think it's evident when we look around, we see state legislatures. I mean, that isn't our point with the U.S. Term Limits organization, but I've experienced how it works in a state legislature, and we need to have term limits. I see it on a national basis as well, and we have people that are there just far too long. And you know, it's not. I don't think it's the average legislator that's there really too long. It's the exceptions that are there for decades that just change the whole dynamics of organizations, whether it's the Congress or the Senate, and make it more difficult to get things done, fresh ideas through. There's a lot of influence with senior members and a lot of control. So it's not a fair process when you're inside the legislature.
Yep. So why did you get involved with U.S. term limits? Why did you take on the role as being our state chair?
I sponsored legislation when I was in the Senate for the state legislature, and I also sponsored legislation for term limits for us to do our bill for our constitutional issues nationally. So we can. I was always very supportive of it, and then when the opportunity came up for me to be the state chair on the Republican side, I was glad to do it, and then I was glad to join a former colleague, Andy Dinniman, on the Democrat side, and we worked very well together when we were in the Senate, and so it was a good match all the way around. I'm very supportive and good people. I like how things are being handled from the organization. We have good people there, and they're always working. They're always looking at state by state, what the bills are introduced, where they are in committee, what's going on. We're kept up to date on things. So it's a very good group to work with.
Why is congressional term limits so important?
Well, I think it's the control in the new ideas that we exclude. There's so much happening, and there's so much expertise out there in the private sector and people that could be working on things that we don't ever tap into because we have the same people in for long periods of time. I never was a big legacy person either, and I know some people are more sensitive about that. But that's another example of the same issues that we face with term limits. We get people in office, and then they want their spouse or one of their children or somebody else to serve. We've gone through that in my area, my congressional district, where we had the same family for 30 some years. And, you know, it just excludes a lot of input that we otherwise would have. I mean, they had the same ideas. It just continues, and if we had somebody new in there periodically, we could maybe do some different things in Washington. But yeah, the same old. Things don't change.
Yep. What do people in Pennsylvania think about term limits? Well,
it's consistent with the rest of the country. It's about an 80-20 position. You know, 80% of the people are for it. Everybody thinks it's a very popular idea, and you know, the other thing that I probably should have mentioned is if we don't have term limits, it's very, very difficult to get rid of people. The election, and people say, you know, and I have conservative friends that say, you know, this is the term limits are at the ballot box. I mean, we've all heard that phrase before, but it just isn't factually correct. It doesn't happen very often. There was a period of time in our state legislature when we had more people going to prison. That was the way they left office. Then not than losing elections. I mean, you know, it's hard to oust an incumbent. They've got the name ID, they've got the money and the contacts and all the support from all these various organizations around the state or the national government saying that they're doing a wonderful job. And, you know, it's very hard to oust an incumbent. I mean, it can be done, but, and I did it when I ran, I ousted an incumbent, but he was in 32 years. And, you know, there were some issues involved, and then I was able to win. But it's not an easy thing to be able to do. So if we don't have term limits, then we're just kind of doomed to have the same people for long periods of time, if they're of the mindset that they want to stay for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And those are usually the ones that are the more problematic people.
Same old, same old. So.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate all your efforts in Pennsylvania for helping us move this issue. And it's good patriots like you that are going to get congressional term limits passed. So, and I want to thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. It's great to be with you, Holly, as always, and we'll keep up the good fight.